welcome to Talking Over Tea. So we asked you guys to ask us some questions over on Instagram and our blog, and we are going to answer them today. We also got a gingerbread kit to make while we do it. So we got this little mini village, and we have never put a gingerbread house together, so this will be fun to try out, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. So the first question is, what is one book that caused you to look at life differently? So I chose the Screwtape Letters. I know I just talked about it in one of our last videos, but that one has really been on my mind recently. I can't really pinpoint the reason that it made me think of life differently, but it has really influenced me, and it was a good book to read at this time of life.
I also picked a C.S. Lewis book. I went with The Great Divorce. I read this in an online class earlier this year, and it introduced ideas that I had never thought of before, and really made me start thinking of heaven and hell in new and different ways.
Okay, so which house do you want to make? This one looks like an outhouse.
These two are kind of similar.
Yeah.
Let's start with this simple ones. Okay, so this is like
Also like moving down to the base.
This is the
okay.
roof.
Mine is like, wait, I don't have a roof.
Is this the roof?
Oh no, these are the roof.
The next question is, who is your favorite author? And for me, that's Ellen Montgomery. I have a whole blog post explaining my reasoning for that, if you want to look at that.
Okay, so I said that my favorite, this was so hard for me. I don't have a favorite author. I have a lot of authors that I like. For the sake of this video, I'm gonna say Timothy D. Bell. He wrote some books that I really like. There's Van Gogh and Toby Alone and some other ones, and I just really like his writing style and his stories. And the next question is, are there any places in books that you've read about that you would like to travel to? Again, I don't really have, I don't know, I'm not really a traveling kind of person, but I decided to go with France just because that's where a lot of Timothy D. Bell's books are set. So there's this marshmallow shop in one of his books, and it just sounds like not like the marshmallows we have here. And it just sounds amazing, and he just like gives free marshmallows out on Christmas. That's pretty much the main reason.
Mine is not much of a surprise. I picked Prince Edward Island. Ellen Montgomery just makes it sound so amazing. The next question is, what is the worst book you've ever read? For me, I picked The Birthday Ball by Lois Lowry. And I usually really like the Lois Lowry book. This one was just horrendous. I don't exactly remember it. I actually read it on her birthday, which is kind of sad. But it was just everything, the humor, the drawings, everything was just kind of horrid.
I picked Spare and Found Parts by Sarah Maria Griffin. This was a really, really weird book. It was like a dystopian world where you had to offer like a talent. I didn't really understand that. And computers were outlawed. I can't remember what the main character's name was. She wanted to like bring back computers or something, and she like was trying to create artificial intelligence, and eventually she makes this robot, and it was just so weird. It was like she was like falling in love with the robot. Okay, the next question is, are you more of an audio or visual learner, and do you prefer audiobooks or books? Yeah, so we both had the kind of the same answer. We're both more visual learners, and we both prefer to read actual books rather than listen to audiobooks.
We were both having a little bit of a hard time on this one because we really do enjoy listening to audiobooks, but I feel like it's kind of a different experience and they kind of aren't the same.
I feel like when I listen to an audiobook, I enjoy the book more than if I had read it. But probably just because I'm doing something else, so I'm not completely focused on just the book.
Our next question is, who is your favorite brother? You can guess who asked that. I tried to come up with a witty way to answer this question and couldn't think of anything. So it's kind of a toss-up between our dog and our brother. And I said it depends on what mood I'm in.
No comment. The next question is, what is one book character who has inspired you? Okay, you guys asked really hard questions. Okay, I don't know why. The first character that popped into my head was the Scarlet Pimpernel from the Scarlet Pimpernel. He was very courageous and brave, and he didn't mind putting himself at risk for other people. Like, he just really helped people. And that is not really me, because I'm very introverted and quiet and I don't like standing up. So I guess he inspired me to try to do it a little better.
I picked Sydney Carton from A Tale of Two Cities for this one, which is a little weird, but he has a very redemptive character arc, and he kind of showed me that, like, no matter how wrong you have been before, you can still be courageous and brave and decide to be different. The next question is, what is your favorite genre of book? For me, I picked dystopian. I really enjoy a lot of different genres, but dystopians always like really make me think a lot and really use my imagination, and I've just always really enjoyed reading them.
And I picked fantasy. I read a lot of fantasy. I'm not very much into contemporary books. At least I haven't read very many, so this is kind of like just my go-to. And I don't necessarily like high fantasy, but I like fantasy, but it's not like medieval times necessarily. So the next question we got is, how do you describe your style? And we weren't quite sure if this was like what kind of book style do you like, or like clothing style, so we're just gonna answer both. So I would say that my style is probably vintage modern. I like vintage style, but I kind of give it a modern spin, I guess. I dress very over the top, kind of fancy, or like I'm wearing like really ratty clothes.
I wrote down a little classy, a little vintage, a little cute, a little pretty, and a little Sherlock Holmes. So I have a lot of different clothing styles that I like. Sometimes I like the very long coats and like plaids and things like that. Sometimes I like the really like cottagey dresses. So for reading style, Amelia always says that I am plot driven. I don't honestly know what I am. I like more complicated books with I don't know, a lot of different things going on and like a lot of characters. I like there to be something interesting about the book, either the prose is kind of different, or the world building is not like the normal. So I'm definitely more character driven. I really like books that have both humor and sad things that happen and that deal with hard topics and have lighthearted elements and just have a good mix of both. I also really like when characters are very mature and willing to do the hard things and suffer a little bit for a good cause. Next question is, what is your favorite book series? For me, I went with the Ascendant series by Jennifer A. Nielsen. I know I've talked about this a lot, and I feel like it's kind of crazy to say that this little middle grade fantasy series is my favorite, but I've just enjoyed it for so many years, and I really enjoy the characters.
I picked Van Gogh, which is by Timothy D. Bell. I've got a lot of series that I like, and I just couldn't pick one, but I picked this one. And so now we have a few questions that are kind of related to each other. We got 3 that were kind of related to childhood books. So the first question is, what book made you fall in love with reading? And I'm not exactly sure. I don't have just this one book. I remember liking to read pretty young, and I remember reading really young books, Bob books that I really liked. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what. I think our mom just read to us, and that kind of started the love of reading.
I would say one that I really remember enjoying and being so proud of myself for finishing was Elizabeth the Princess Bride. It is a Royal Diaries book, and it was very princessy and what I was enjoying at that time. The next question is, what is your favorite childhood book? I went with the Addie series, which is an American Girl Doll collection. I just remember taking that big collection and reading the whole thing and thinking it was so amazing.
So I said that my favorite book was The Secret Garden. There were a few books that I really loved, but I just remember reading that one and I loved it so much. And I was probably 10 when I read it. And the next one is, what is the first book you remember reading? So like I said, I remember reading Bob books, but the first book that I can really remember besides learning to read books is The Magic Tree House and books like that. But there was Tuck Everlasting is probably the one that I really remember reading. I read that one so many times, and I like drew a picture of the cover. And yeah, that's probably the first book, like the first real book I remember reading.
One of the first books I remember reading is the Rita Rabbit's interactive reading journey books. I think they were originally my brother's, but I loved them. I loved that I could like follow along with the story and follow with these characters through all these different books. I very strongly remember reading those when I was really young. The next question is, what is your favorite quote? I have two answers. The first one is actually one that it's really famous, but I read it recently in my English class, and it is better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. I also have an Ellen Montgomery one that is, it is never quite safe to think we have done with life. When we imagine we have finished our story, fate has a trick of turning the page and showing us yet another chapter.
Like, apparently all things in this video, I cannot think of my favorite thing, but I do like this quote. I used to dream about escaping my ordinary life, but my life was never ordinary. I had simply failed to notice how extraordinary it was. That was written by Ransom Reeds. And then the next question is, if you could become a character in any book, who would you be and why? And I picked Mary Lennox from The Secret Garden. She starts off as like this sullen, sickly child who hates everyone and everything. But then she eventually like just grows up and like learns and plays, and it's just a sweet like little book, and it just sounds nice to like just learn your lesson and get better and just have a wonderful life.
I picked Sarah Stanley from The Story Girl. She is the Story Girl, and she just like tells all these amazing stories, and everyone loves to listen to them, and she just lives in this little village, and she has all these little friends, and they just do things together, and it just sounds like the perfect life to me. The next question is, are there any other things or new ideas that you would like to use your blog for? I said that I would like it to be a place for us to be deep and funny and creative, and to kind of just share our lives in a way that is uplifting and encouraging and entertaining.
I mean, I want it to be that too, but I also would like to, like, you asked if we wanted to bring anything new to it, and I would kind of like to bring our other hobbies into this blog. We've had this idea for a very long time that we've just been trying to make work, and it just hasn't happened yet, but we're hoping like next year we can get a little bit more organized and a little bit better at making videos so that we can do the ideas that we're wanting to. Next question is, what is your absolute favorite book? And it can't be a series. I have talked about this book a lot, and right now this is probably my absolute favorite book, but it kind of just changes. But right now, mine is Thorn by Intezar Kanani. I've talked about it before, and I have a blog post about it, so if you want to read it to find out more about it, you can.
This is a very hard question to answer, but I went with Anne of Avonlea by Ellen Montgomery. I know I've mentioned Ellen Montgomery a lot of times in this video, but she really does make it on my favorites in a lot of ways. I've read this book 4 times, and it's just one that I really remember loving as a kid. I listened to the audiobook, I read it, and I just loved all the characters. I loved everything that happened, and I don't foresee myself ever really getting tired of that one.
Okay, so we just realized that our main camera died a long time ago, so plugged it in now, so yeah.
The next question is, for someone who doesn't like reading, what would you say to convince them to read? So I said that I would try to find a book that they might be interested in just by knowing if I knew what they liked. And I'd also tell them what I like reading.
I don't know. I don't think that I could ever convince anyone who doesn't like reading to read, but I guess we would just say what we like about it and give them something that might interest them, something that's their interest, like Amelia said. The next question is, what other pets would you want? And I am not the biggest, I love pets, but I don't know, something about them. I'm kind of scared of most dogs. But I don't know, I like the pet that we have. But if I did need to get another one, I would get maybe like a very, very sweet cat. It would have to be like the best and nicest cat ever, because I wouldn't be able to live with the cat that was mean.
I said I would go with a larger pony, because I always really liked horses, but I feel like I'd rather have a pony, but I still want to ride it. Yeah, that's all I have. The next question is, what are you looking forward to most about next year? For this, I said graduating.
Well, we have kind of a lot of things happening
Yeah.
next year. Our brother's getting married, which we're very excited about. Amelia's graduating, and I'm gonna hopefully go to something called costume college, which is very new and exciting for me. And also, what I'm really looking forward to, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to be reading 100 books next year because I'm going to read 100 books this year. So I'm so close, and I really, 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 really want to get to 100. So that next year I can just take it as slow as I want to and read all the long classics and all the long books that I haven't been wanting to read because they take too long. And then this is the last question, and we saved this one for last. It is, what made you want to start a blog? So during COVID in 2020, we had an event that got canceled. When it came around to the day that it was supposed to be on, we were at home sulking. Yeah, I don't know what we were doing, but we were just both in my room, and our mom was cleaning stuff. And she came up to us kind of out of the blue and was like, you could make a organization blog.
Which that baffles me.
Yeah. It does a little because we are not very organized, but we were kind of like, yeah, we could.
Yeah.
And then we, yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, we both had blogs before. We could never keep up with them, and they just kind of always ended in like just giving up and burning out. So I was a little skeptical. But then we were thinking about it, and
we're like, well, this would be something together, which would be different than what we've ever done. So we were like, well, we could do an organization blog.
Yeah, so we were kind of thinking of ideas and thinking about what we could organize, and we kind of got onto the topic of bullet journaling, because we had both, or I don't know about you, but I had done it.
So yeah, we started with bullet journaling, and we did a few posts like that. We also were like, well, we came up with the name Talking Over Tea. I don't exactly know how we did that.
Yeah, we agonized.
We just liked tea. I know.
We wanted a name that wouldn't put us down into one genre.
Yeah, like, so we had to,
not something
to be bullet journaling.
Yeah,
or organization.
So tea was something that we were always gonna like, and it didn't really matter what we talked about under that name.
So we did a few posts about bullet journaling, and then I don't exactly know why we stopped bullet journaling, but we kind of started like just doing like other stuff, like just because we just didn't have enough with bullet journaling. And so we were just kind of doing like random things that didn't really, I mean, they weren't good. We didn't like them. We knew we didn't like them, but we just kept doing them. And then we just kind of got like, I guess we got burnt out because we were doing posts every week, and that was really hard for us.
After we decided bullet journaling wasn't really working, we realized, like, we remembered that we actually liked books.
Crazy. We felt like we had to bullet journal to find something to post about, so it was just we were bullet journaling just to post about something. But we realized, like, we're always reading, so we might as well talk about books, since that's just what we do in our everyday life.
So once we began making book posts, all of our problems were not fixed, unfortunately. We still were not really liking what we were making, and something just felt off about it.
It just felt like there was no meaning to it. Yeah. It was just like, here's a book haul for no reason, and
yeah, we were just doing what every other person who talks about books does.
But even like to a lesser degree.
Yeah.
Like, there was just nothing, no reason. Yeah, we were pretty discouraged because, I mean, we kept making these videos, we didn't know what else to make, and we didn't like them, but we didn't want to give up. This was the first thing that we'd ever done consistently.
So we began to start posting every week again, but we were doing 2 videos and 2 written posts. And in the written posts, we were able to kind of find our meaning and like do some inspirational things. And with the videos, we could focus more on our books that didn't necessarily have meaning.
We're still trying to find a way to do meaningful
videos. And it's harder for us to talk. Right, and it's just, we're still really trying to figure things out. We've never come to something that we really love, but I feel like we've gotten closer to a place that we're happy with lately. We've seen a lot of growth in ourselves. A lot of things that were really hard for us have become a lot easier, and I think it's encouraging to see that we have gotten better in hopes that next year
we'll get better.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always going to be growing. We're never going to be where we want to be, but I think we're starting to get on a better path to figure out what we actually want to be.
Okay.
Oh, this one's too far. Oh no. Uh-oh, what's happening?
So that was all the questions that we received. We hope that this was at least a little interesting to hear our answers. And we want to thank everyone who asked us questions. Hopefully you will feel a little more superior in your gingerbread making skills, because these are
something else.
Yeah. We want to thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in our next post.
Our roof caved in. We were just about to start cleaning up and we just noticed it. Poor little house.